Books for guys. Now, I'm making this video because not long ago I did watch a YouTube video where they cited an article saying that men are reading less, or they're reading nonfiction and not reading much fiction. And I do not know the source of the article shown on that YouTube video, so I don't know how true that is. I've only seen this in one place. There was additional information in that video that publishers are not looking at books written by guys or written for guys. And so there's a dearth of new literature focused on men. And once again, I don't know how well sourced that video was. I do not myself know if this is true or not. But I thought, if that is true, there's still lots of stuff out there that guys can read and enjoy. It might be older stuff, but because we have digital books now, a lot of it is becoming available again. And if you don't care for digital books, then the series I'm about to point out here, you can go to used bookstores and used book dealers online, and you can find copies of these, I think, without spending too much money. The electronic versions, if you don't mind reading ebooks, are extremely inexpensive. And the series I'm talking about is Fargo. Now, in 1960, there was a Western called The Professional, set in the 1910s, took place in revolutionary Mexico. And one of the characters in it, Rico, was played by Lee Marvin. And his backstory was that he was a Rough Rider with Teddy Roosevelt, and he also fought with the army in the Philippines. And Fargo is a unofficial version of that character. Doesn't have the same name, but he's described as prematurely gray. He wears the army hat. He was a Rough Rider. He fought in the Philippines. He's Rico's character exactly, just renamed and put in his own series of books. And this is like a cool idea because The Professionals is a fantastic movie. Lee Marvin's character is a fantastic character. And the Fargo series, written under the pen name of John Benteen, the first 20 books were written mostly by an excellent writer named Ben Haas, Haas. And my understanding that his son Joel either wrote or co-wrote a couple of these as well. And that went through the first 20 books of the series, which started in 1969 and ran through the 70s. Ben Haas passed away, I think, in 1977. There were 3 additional books in the series written by someone else that I have not read and were not included in the digital reprint series. So I cannot speak to the quality of those 3 books. But the 20 Fargo books are just superb. They're great adventure stories. They run, I think, less than 150 pages each, so they just jump right into the story. They tell the story well. There's lots of action with a great character, and this is, it's a series that's going to appeal to guys more than women. Because men and women are different. We have different personalities. And these are generalizations. So there's probably female Fargo fans out there, and that's wonderful. But this is going to be a series that speaks to men with our more aggressive personalities. And it just seems like a lot of entertainment today is overly obsessed with what they call toxic masculinity. And it seems that everything masculine is put under that umbrella and considered bad. I don't think that's 100% true, but I think that's often true, and I think it's affected, affected IPs like Star Wars and Star Trek and Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to their detriment. But whether or not you agree with that, men and women are different. Men are generally more aggressive, and masculinity is not a 100% bad thing. In fact, it's mostly a good thing. Toxic masculinity should be defined pretty much by men who are bullies and who mistreat women. A man who thinks that it's his job to protect his family who would consider women more worthwhile because he's willing to risk himself to save them and protect them, that's true masculinity. That's a healthy thing. And books like Fargo, they're not full of moral lessons. They just tell adventure stories. And Fargo is not morally the best person in the world. But they speak to that. They speak to doing the right thing even when it's dangerous. And they just tell great adventure stories. Fargo, as I said, he's based on the character of Rico from The Professionals. So his backstory is that he was an orphan who ran away from the people who were taking care of him on his ranch when he was young. He did some boxing, he did cattle punching, he did all the Old West stuff. He was a Rough Rider in the Spanish-American War, and then he was served with the army in the Philippines. Then he just left the military and he became pretty much a mercenary. And these books are set in the 1910s. They are not published in a chronological order. Like along the way, suddenly you'll read one where it's 1918 and World War I is going on. And I have, by the way, long since giving up doing second takes on this to keep my dog Sherlock from barking on the videos. Just, if you heard that bark, that was my dog Sherlock. Anyway, by the 1910s, he's very established as a mercenary. He does a job. He makes a lot of money on it. He spends that money on wine, women, and gambling. And then when he needs money again, he takes another job. So it's probably not the healthiest of lifestyles. He doesn't plan for the future because he figures he's going to get killed while relatively young eventually. But that's the life he's chosen, and he's okay with that. And so Fargo does not represent a lifestyle that most guys would want or should want to emulate. You know, there's no family, no lasting relationships with women, all the stuff that in real life make a person make for a healthy person. But in the context of the Fargo books, he's exactly what he should be. And he does have standards. Like, he will run guns into Mexico to sell to Pancho Villa. He's actually friends with Pancho Villa and is sympathetic towards his cause. But he does have rules. He knows what he's doing is wrong, is illegal, but he will never shoot a Texas Ranger or a sheriff or a soldier. He has that standard, and that's in part because he doesn't want to end up a wanted man in the U.S. But so there's a practical value to it, but also, you know, he just doesn't want to shoot guys who are in the end the good guys. He does have some standards, and that's something you can lock on to the character to be able to root for him and enjoy his adventures. Another cool thing about him is his weapons. Every book has a couple of pages where he unpacks his special weapons, and we get to see them. They're part of his personality. Carries a Colt 38 revolver as a pistol, a 30-30 Winchester as a long gun. He has a shotgun that is engraved. It says it's a gift from Teddy Roosevelt, and it was given to him after Fargo did a particular job for Teddy Roosevelt that we're never told what that job was. But Roosevelt is somebody that Fargo admires, and there's a couple of books where Teddy Roosevelt, who's now a former president, contacts Fargo and says, "I got this job, can you do it?" And Fargo always says, "Yes, for you, I'll do that." Of course. The Panama Gold, the #2 one, he's sent down to protect the Panama Canal against saboteurs. There's a later one, Massacre River. We'll see. No, not Massacre River, but there's another one because that one was set in the Philippines. It includes him using a dynamite gun. That's the image on that cover. That's really cool. But there's another one where Teddy asked him to escort a expedition of scientists down the Colorado River to protect them from bandits that are all through that area. Really cool stuff. A lot of these are set in the American Southwest or in Mexico. Several dealt with the Mexican Revolution or with Pancho Villa. There's one with Valley of Skulls, where he is accompanying an expedition to the Central America, where they find an old Spanish cannon made entirely of gold and have to get that out of the jungle while being pursued by a zillion bad guys. Alaska Steel takes him to Alaska. At one point, he's tied up naked by the bad guys and left out in the snow, and he still manages to pull himself out of it. Fargo means you don't know the meaning of giving up. So he has that shotgun. Sorry, I should have wrote this as a script. I keep rambling, but it's just a fun character. His last weapon is this knife, a Patangas knife. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Kind of a switchblade-like thing that he got in the Philippines, and he's very, very good in hand-to-hand combat. There's one where he encounters bad guys, one of who's a six-gun fast-draw expert. One's an expert knife fighter, and the other likes to beat people to death with his bare hands. And not surprisingly, over the course of the novel, Fargo encounters the one guy in a six-gun draw, the other guy in a knife fight, and the last guy in a hand-to-hand fight to the death. And he's just good at all of it, because, by golly, he's Fargo. So these books, the current series, numbers 1 through 20, are not printed in any particular chronological order, but it doesn't matter. Each story is independent of the others. So if you're suddenly reading one where it's World War I, and he's in Argentina dealing with a German spy, then you go back and it's 1915, and he's being asked by Teddy Roosevelt to do as a favor. Phantom Gunman. Fargo teams with Billy the Kid to end the war in Lincoln County. That is not a flashback to the 1870s. There is a possibility that an older gentleman in this story is Billy the Kid, grown old after faking his own death way back when. And the plot does involve fighting bad guys in Lincoln County. It kind of mirrors the original Lincoln County War, which Billy the Kid in real life was involved with. It's just another fun one. Wildcatters, he's working in the oil fields, protecting it against bad guys. There's one where he's hired by a lumber company in Oregon to help guard against a rival lumber company that's using violence to get ahead. There's a variety of plots. One where he's back in the Philippines, trying to protect a woman and a treasure, and ends up getting captured by an insane former Confederate and his equally insane children who want the treasure to finance restarting the Civil War. So books for guys. You have to go back over 50 years, almost 60 years now since the first one was written. But these were just fun books. Killing Spree is probably my favorite in the series. It turns out that Fargo had financed an old prospector and his beautiful daughter. And that investment's paying off as the prospector has found some gold. So Fargo is visiting them when some bad guys show up. They're interesting bad guys. They are 4 half-brothers, each with the same apostate Mormon father and each with a different mother, and they're all wacko. They show up, they kill the prospector, they take the woman, and they take all of Fargo's weapons and leave him tied up with rawhide in the middle of a ghost town. But, as I said, if you're Fargo, you don't know the meaning of quit. It's not in your dictionary. He manages to get out of the rawhide. He's got some broken ribs, so he's not in great shape. But he finds some old whiskey bottles to fill with water. He beats a coyote to death with a stick in order to have some meat, some food. And then he sharpens the stick as a weapon. And that's what he starts with. Injured, no weapons except for a sharpened stick, a makeshift spear, and he goes after the bad guys. Gets caught in a sandstorm, finally finds one of them and recovers his knife. Each one has taken a different of his 4 weapons. And as he gradually tracks down these bad guys and then eventually rescues the girl, he kind of goes through this evolutionary use of weaponry. He starts with the sharpened stick. He gets his knife back. He gets his pistol back. He uses that against one of the bad guys. He gets his rifle and shotgun back. Eventually, when he goes against the last remaining bad guy to rescue the girl, that guy is teamed up with some Mexican bandits, and Fargo is using a machine gun and some hand grenades as part of his attack on them in order to finish off the last bad guy and get the girl. It's just nonstop right from the start. They set up the situation. Fargo is injured and tied up, and then it's just nonstop action after that until the end of the book. It is just great stuff. And as I said, there was a couple of these that were written by Ben Haas's son or co-written. I read one place that Ben Haas did the outline and his son Joel then wrote the books from that. I don't know if that's accurate or not. But once again, if it's true that modern publishers are not publishing stuff for guys, and if it's true that guys are not reading as much, and once again, I do not know how accurate that video I watched is, there's still stuff out there. And because of electronic publishing, it's becoming available again. These are currently like $1.25 each if you don't mind reading electronically. And I've checked the numbers 21 through 23, the ones I haven't read I would be curious to. They actually tend to be kind of expensive if you find used copies online, and they weren't included in the electronic reprint series. So I have not read those, but I'm happy with the Ben Haas written ones. Everyone's excellent. Everyone is entertaining. There wasn't a clunker in the bunch. They're short reads. They're quick reads. They're full of great action. I think it's the border jumpers here, where the final scene has Fargo in a railroad car, boxcar, with a machine gun, using the bodies of his enemies as a barricade as he holds off more bad guys. It's just a great scene. I'm not sure actually if Border Jumpers is the one where that happens. It might be another one. But the whole series is full of these great action scenes. And I'm sorry I'm rambling a bit with this video, but if guys aren't reading as much anymore, well, start reading and grab some of the Fargo books and read those, and you won't regret it. They're great fun.